banked it in, and the game is tied. We're going to overtime.
You wanted an overtime? I think you're going to get one.
And we are headed to overtime.
And we are through 4 in 60 minutes. Not enough.
Oh, my God, we're going to overtime.
Welcome into overtime, and we are talking NFL schedule. It has been released. JJ Stankevitz from Colts.com, and from our radio team, Casey Vallier. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. Surprises, surprises, surprises. Guys, I want to start with you, JJ. The primetime game and the Indianapolis Colts at home have never meshed. It's kind of like oil and water here.
Lucas Oil and Water, if you will.
Oh, there we go. Lucas Oil and Water. We can't get a primetime home game. How disappointing is that?
You know what? It's funny, Jeffrey, when we were recording the official Colts podcast yesterday, we ended with schedule predictions, and I was like, I bet we're still on double secret probation from the NFL for the 2022 season when we did have some primetime home games against Pittsburgh and the Chargers, and to say the least, those games were forgettable. I think the only moment I remember from either of those games was Dallas Flowers taking a kick 87 yards.
Right.
So the NFL may be still a little bit hesitant to put the Colts on primetime, just that one game against the New York Jets in November, but it's disappointing. That season opener against Houston.
Right.
I thought that Houston home game would have been primetime because we got that on primetime last year.
Right.
And that was an absolutely epic
Lived up
football
to the bill,
game.
for sure.
That was a gripping football game. These are two teams that I think are going to be competing for the AFC South. You got Houston making all those moves in the offseason. You got Anthony Richardson. You got C.J. Stroud. To me, that's a miss by the NFL. To put that in a 1 o'clock window, even give that one a 4:25 window, I thought would have been a win for a network. But, it's I guess we'll eventually get there if Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud continue the upward trajectory we both believe
Absolutely. I think with that talent we're talking about, and A.D. Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson, I thought that Houston game, just like you had said, would be in primetime, but it's not. It's going to open it up there. Not surprising on your end, Casey, really quick on this thing, because this is a team that's loaded with talent in a division now that has quarterbacks galore all over it. So I'm saying, AFC South, we need a little bit more when it comes to primetime action.
No, I would agree with that point. I think that to piggyback off kind of what JJ said with Houston, I also thought you could throw Jacksonville in there because this is kind of a division now that there are a lot of people talking about how sneaky this division might be, especially this year, but definitely moving forward. So I figured with that thought, you might see a little bit more of that primetime flavor or an afternoon flavor that you wouldn't typically get in Indy. But clearly for the Colts perspective, that's not the case. I
would have loved to see that Bears game in primetime. But I also know I haven't seen what the Bears' schedule is yet. I'm sure they're in primetime a lot.
Oh, yeah.
The NFL is going to always defer to, let's put the Bears on in primetime. They got Caleb Williams. They should be a pretty good team this year, I think. But that was a game I kind of had circled of that would be a really fun Thursday night game.
For sure.
Because these are what I would love those Thursday night games to be is hey, we're just going to put two super fun teams on TV and you guys watch that. To me, I think we're going to get to week 9, 10, 11, like that Jets game in week 11 when the Colts haven't been on in primetime, just always 1 p.m. starts. And you're going to have national football watchers, like the Robert Mazes from The Athletic of the world being guys, Colts are fun. No one's watching them, but this is a fun team. They're doing some really cool stuff. And then that Sunday night game against New York hopefully can be kind of a debut of sorts for the Colts on the national stage.
And well said, because they're going to find out. We're going to talk about the stretch here in a minute. That's a doozy. But at that time, no national audience up until then. If we're cooking, which, we're going to be cooking at that time, and knock off Aaron Rodgers in New York, setting that precedent for the last,
Assuming Rodgers is playing.
Rodgers is playing. I haven't in my mind that it will be, you just pencil in Jets quarterback versus Anthony
Tyrod
Richardson
Taylor.
There. That's what I'm going with.
Well, hopefully Anthony Richardson's playing too.
Yes.
I mean, we can't sit here and throw stones at the Jets when Anthony Richardson did miss most of last year too.
All right, so we got some AFC South matchups, guys. A few of them get not much like last year, but they do get out of the way early. Obviously, we're ending the season with an AFC South matchup. What do you think the way they laid the schedule out with the South? It
feels like this happens every year, Jeffrey, where the Colts have a front-loaded AFC South schedule. You're looking at done with the Texans in week 8, and you're done with your divisional road games also in week 8. So it does set up where you do finish out with the Titans and the Jags late in the season, week 16 and 18. But Colts got to start hot, and hot starts have been something this team has not had in quite some time. They're going to have to – I mean, you have to come right out of the gate swinging against the Texans, like absolutely. But then that stretch that I know we're going to talk about where you get the Jags, Titans, and Texans on the road in a span of 4 weeks.
Right.
You got to be ready for those games. Those games are if you're going to win the division, you got to come out of those games with a winning record. At the very least.
I want to piggyback off what you said there. You talk about how it seems like year in and year out it's like this. And typically where I'm looking, I see where is Halloween, and I go before that. And yet again, this year it's the same way.
It's the same thing.
We are finished with the Houston Texans by Halloween this year.
Right.
And it was like, a couple years ago, we were done with the Titans by Halloween when they were on their tear. And
last year we were done with the Jaguars by Halloween when they were defending division champs.
It's very strange that is how the schedule continues to be made. And I kind of, lately I've been looking at where is Halloween and who do we play before that, and it lines
kind of
up
2
to
years
the
in
way
a
it's
row
been.
with different division leaders like that. Hey, you want to find out the Colts schedule? We're bouncing all over the place on this schedule. Colts.com has all the information. The Colts Audio Network, YouTube TV as well. I'm talking about this schedule release and juicy games right now. There's juicy games. Is that Green Bay a juicy game? And I think it is, because obviously the way that Jordan Love's playing, but knock on wood, we got a break there. We're going to talk about some cold weather environments in a minute. But Green Bay, when we're going up there, it will be perfect. No snow.
That's the best time to go. It's the best time.
mean,
well, you don't know that.
Wilder things have happened.
That is the 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, September 15th game at Lambeau Field. It doesn't get much better than that.
3 inches of snow, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Just the thunder will be half frozen up there. That is
we'll call that juicy, wouldn't we?
Like, you remember, so it was what? The last time the AFC South played the NFC North was 4 years ago. It was that COVID year. And I remember the Titans going up to Green Bay, and it is snowing, just like capital S, coming down. And I remember seeing the Green Bay just kind of win that game going away. Ryan Tannehill had I think he had like a touchdown where he just ran through the snow, but otherwise I think Green Bay won it. And just thinking, man, that's kind of like, if you're a team that isn't used to playing in that, like if you aren't in the NFC North and you got to go to Green Bay, or even if you're not even in the NFC, you go to Green Bay once every 8 years. Man, that is tough. So getting that in September, thumbs up. You like seeing that.
That's a juicy game. Casey, juicy. Look over that schedule. What do you like?
That game could be a track meet, by the way.
That's a real juicy one, because I look at what Green Bay did early in the year last year. They kind of had their ups and downs, and then they really turned it on late in the year, and we saw their run in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get off to their start with another year under Jordan Love. He clearly showed that he has essentially, in year one, what it takes to kind of man that ship there in Green Bay. So I think that is a juicy matchup, but I'm just like you guys. I love that it's coming early in the year instead of looking at that, December 13th and your play. Yeah, that's not what we wanted to see.
Having said that, December 15th, the Colts are at the Broncos, and it is known to snow around the Rocky Mountains around that time of year.
Broncos and Giants games, you might have some snow there.
That's right, back to back. Denver, at New England coming December 1st. We're going to get something there. Colts have a late bye week. That is
another late bye week.
Another late bye week. Real quick, touch on that. Good thing, bad thing. When do you want the perfect bye? I'm saying I can look at it both ways, JJ and Casey. I can look at it, hey, you guys run the wheels off of these players and then get them ready for a late bye and get them ready for that last stretch, or you're just dog tired at that point, and it's you want that thing in the middle or the front loaded bye.
So I remember looking this up a couple years ago when the Colts got the latest possible bye, and a number of Super Bowl champions have actually had that, like week 13, 14 bye recently. I don't know what's behind that. Maybe it is like, hey, if you're primed for a playoff run, you get that late rest, and then you kind of go. The thing that stinks about this is the Colts don't have the Thursday night game. So you don't have that sort of mini bye that you sometimes get week 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where the NFL kind of got they no longer force teams to play on Thursday Night Football. The networks, Amazon chooses who's going to play, and Amazon did not pick the Colts to play on Thursday Night Football.
Okay, Amazon, remember that. Remember that if you're watching. I'm just if I can talk to Jeff Bezos, I will. Let's
get him on the pod.
We'll have him on next week. Hey, we talked about tough stretches. We talked about coming up to Pittsburgh through the Texans, at Green Bay, Chicago, which you said should have been on Prime. I agree with you on that, especially with the quarterback situation there. Hosting Pittsburgh, and a stretch starts that we talked about before we started rolling. JJ, you start with the stretch that's the biggest and toughest one on this 17-game schedule.
Yeah, to me, this is where the meat of the season is going to get made. or the sausage of the season is going to get made, I guess.
I like the sausage. Yeah.
You know,
I like
meat
it.
gets made when a cow grows.
Are you a sausage maker?
Yeah. Yeah. So you start week 5, you're at Jacksonville. Week 6, you're at Tennessee. Week 7, then you're home to the Dolphins. So get your running shoes on there. Week 8, you're on the road to the Texans, and then week 9, you're on the road to the Vikings. So you have 4 road games in 5 weeks, which is kind of the reverse of what the Colts had last year. They had 4 home games in 5 weeks.
That's right.
But 3 of these 4 road games are against divisional opponents. And then you do get another conference game in there, and those conference games are so critical for tiebreakers if you wind up in a battle for playoff seeding or playoff, even a playoff berth. This is where, the Colts are going to have to be a team that comes out of this stretch able to win on the road and able to win divisional games on the road. That is something, the Colts did do last year. They won 2 divisional games on the road in Tennessee and Houston. You're probably going to have to do that again if you want to be taken seriously as an AFC South contender.
And I go with, you look at that stretch, and I know it's, we're looking at this in May, but I kind of look at that first chunk of the season and then that stretch right there. The first 5 games, I think you have to come out at least 3-2 because there are some winnable football games early. And if you can steal, a divisional game here or there,
you think a little bit higher than 3-2, please?
Right.
Give
Okay.
me a little more
sure.
than that,
I'm saying this is my baseline, and then in that stretch, even 2 and 3, you're getting a couple key victories against divisional and conference opponents. You kind of have to, if you look at both of those, you have to be in that window if you're wanting to play playoff football, and that's in the first half of the schedule. So that's where it's really difficult. If you're going to break it down, just split it in half. That first half is so important.
The one thing I will say, you might look at some of these games and say, yeah, these are winnable. But, Houston and Green Bay to start the year.
Man.
That is not a very soft opening to this season. You got to be ready to play right from the start. I think getting Chicago early.
Yeah, but you guys said it, JJ. You're right, though. That's a pretty good football team, especially if they have the right guy at quarterback at that point.
But what I'm saying with Chicago is getting them early. I think you would probably rather get them before they settle in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they could come out and be totally gangbusters. But, you think about the Texans last year. We're getting them in week 2.
Yeah.
Before we knew what C.J. Stroud really was, that probably was a benefit. Getting them in week 18, they were a fully formed football team by then, and they won that game.
Yeah. So you want to take worst take of the year.
Go ahead.
After week 2, I came in here and I said that's the worst football team in the NFL that we
That
just
was
played.
you last year?
That's what I said last year after week 2 against the Texans. Boy, was I wrong.
Okay,
because I honestly thought they had all kinds of offensive line issues.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You saw what Stroud could do, but I was like, he's all they have. And boy, I was wrong because, week 18, I ate my words. But that's what I said in week 2. So I would agree with what JJ is saying, getting some of the youthful quarterbacks early. It might be a good thing to get Caleb Williams in week 3.
I think that kind of bounces off to another point that I wanted to make, that you look at the end of the schedule, the last 5 games, where you're at New England, then you got the bye, then you're at Denver, Tennessee, at New York, Jacksonville. None of those teams made the playoffs last year, and 3 of them had top 7 picks in the draft. One of those teams inevitably is going to be a lot better than we thought.
Oh, 100%.
And one of those games you're going to get down to the end of the year and be like, man, we got to go to New York. Oh, boy, that game against Denver. They got Bo Nix humming. Sean Payton's doing his thing. That's a tough game that you might not sit here right now and think, that's going to be a real challenge for the Colts to go on the road there or host the Titans or Jaguars at home.
How about this one? Bills, Jets, Lions, that stretch late in the year. What does it look like? Bills, they, wide receivers have come and gone in there, but Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. So, that's another – we're talking about tough stretches. That's one right there, and we know what Danny Campbell's doing up in Detroit.
The Bills might be one of the most interesting teams to watch this year to see, what they look like without the guys that had been there with Josh Allen to kind of create what Josh Allen become. Now, I don't want to at all downgrade how he is as a quarterback because he is one of the elite guys playing that position, but it's going to be a lot of new guys he's trying to get the ball to, so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works. And by that time, you're going to know whether or not this Bills team is for real or not. So in November, you're going to know well in advance that, okay, this offense can hum, or, hey, this offense has a long way to go without guys like Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. The Jets game, we've already kind of mentioned it. I'll have to see if Aaron Rodgers can continue to, he chirps his mouth enough. All the off-the-field stuff makes him kind of a we won't go into that, but we'll see if he can stay healthy. But that Lions game for me, and I don't know if JJ, if you would agree with this at all, it's the game before the Thanksgiving game that the Lions always play. So I'm interested to see if the Colts can maybe steal one as they're gearing up for all the spotlight being on them at Thanksgiving. We'll see.
I think that I always think about that because I was looking at this and being like, okay, the Colts are getting the Jaguars a week before they go for 2 weeks overseas in London. You know, the Colts are getting the Packers coming off the Brazil game. They're getting the Lions before Thanksgiving, but I don't know. You've been around these guys. Like, they're so tunnel vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, like, I don't think they're not even thinking about that.
Right.
Those Detroit players, the week before they play the Colts, are not thinking about who they're playing on Thanksgiving or, playing in front of a national audience. It's just tunnel vision. The Jaguars aren't thinking about, I got to pack, for 2 weeks in London. What am I going to bring? And all. They're just thinking, how do we beat the Colts that week?
Hey, this Colts team's going to face a new quarterback in Pittsburgh, whether it's a veteran like Russell Wilson or
that's a good question.
You know what I'm saying? We don't know yet, right, what's going on with the quarterback situation. But young first-year quarterbacks, this Colts defense is going to be facing. Tell me about it.
Hey, so the Colts are going to face, could face 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of this year's draft. So that would be, you're looking at, let's see, starting with the Bears in week 3 with Caleb Williams. Then you go to the Vikings in week 9 with J.J. McCarthy. The Patriots in week 13 with Drake May. And the Broncos in week 15 with Bo Nix. The last time the Colts faced 4 quarterbacks in a single season who were drafted in the first round?
That's why you're here, brother. Give it to me.
1983.
Okay. Wow.
They faced Dan Marino twice. And they faced John Elway
in the AFC
twice.
East?
In the AFC East, of which the Colts have more division titles than the Jets. They faced Dan Marino twice, and then they faced John Elway twice after trading John Elway to the Broncos when he was the number 1 overall pick. So, but this is almost unprecedented. The number of rookies, and look. We don't know when J.J. McCarthy is going to start. We know Caleb Williams is going to start week 3. We don't know when McCarthy, May, and Nix are going to get in there. They will at some point, but maybe because all those games are later in the season, we could see them. I want to go back to Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah, go ahead. Justin Fields or Russell? Who starts?
Right now, Mike Tomlin's been sending signals that it's going to be Russell Wilson. We'll see when you come out of training camp, but I would have to, if I had to guess right now, it's probably Russ gets that first stretch of the season for Pittsburgh. So we'll probably see Russ here. But if that game were in week 8, week 12, week 15, I think you might see Justin Fields.
These are all health aside, but who are we facing in New York late in the season?
It's a really good question. You got Drew Lock, you got Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito. That's a really good question, too.
4th unnamed quarterback we don't know yet.
Yep.
Maybe that's the guy.
Right.
I mean, who was talking about Tommy DeVito last year? And,
right.
And that's where all of this, I've heard so many times people talk about, well, the quarterbacks you faced last year is not what you're facing this year. But, yeah, if you look at it, before the year, you weren't looking at those backups, some of those backups that you took on. So it's always – health is always undefeated in the NFL. There's always going to be somebody that gets hurt, and it's always going to change things up. So we'll be interested to see how it is this year. It seems like the last 2 years it's been at the quarterback position league-wide. So who knows? Maybe this year it's going to be a wide receiver bunch of guys throughout the league to get hurt, and that changes the dynamic of those teams as well. So it'll be interesting for sure.
Just think about last year when we were talking about the schedule, and it's, oh boy, we got the AFC North. That means you got Lamar, Burrow, Watson. That's
so true.
And all of a sudden, Burrow doesn't play. You lose that game. Watson plays like 2 quarters, throws a pick, 2 picks, gets taken out of the game / bench.
P.J. Walker,
And P.J. Walker comes in, they win that game, but then you beat Lamar Jackson on the road.
Right.
So, I mean, we can analyze this until we're blue in the face, but it's like weird stuff is going to happen
Great call.
this season.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I like to circle games, guys. You heard the old cliche, circle that game. That's one that we're not talking about a lot, but I want to circle it. Let me go first on this one. Late in the year, I'm going to call it December 22nd against the Titans.
Took mine.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry about that. But
Go ahead, make your point.
I'm just saying, it's right there. It's do or die time at that point. You're going to find out where you are. Can you really take that extra step forward with a lot of teams in the rearview mirror, or are you in the muck with a home loss to an AFC South rival like that? So that's the one I circled.
Do you know Tennessee beat Jacksonville last year when all the Jags had to do was win, and they were in the playoffs, and Tennessee beat them. So you can never, ever – I know it's a different coaching staff, all that stuff. Derrick Henry's not there. You can never count the Titans out, especially late in the year when it's a divisional game.
So I went right around the same time,
Okay.
but I went with the Giants game, and I kind of put it on the same as it was a couple years ago when the Colts were in New York. The Colts' playoff chances were way out the window. New York needed to win the game against the Colts to put themselves in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. They win that game handily, and I think it's going to be reversed this year. I think the Colts are going to be in that spot where at that time the Colts win, and essentially you're in. The Colts take care of business in New York, and we talked about whoever that fourth quarterback, or if it's Drew Lock or whoever it is out there in New York, the Colts handle their business there and they make the playoffs.
Here's the reason why I wanted to bring up Tennessee is because when you get late in the year and your conference record matters so much for tiebreakers. And last year the AFC was so competitive, and I remember doing all those playoff scenarios of Colts. Hey, if the Colts are going to lose a game, they can afford to lose to the Falcons,
right?
Right, because it was an NFC team.
Oh man!
But that Broncos Titans stretch there, where you come out of the bye, if you're thinking we need a tiebreaker to get a better seed in the playoffs, or we need a tiebreaker to just make the playoffs, those are the games you got to win. I think actually the New York game is the least important.
Okay, there you go. See?
Because obviously you need to win it.
Right.
But if you're in a position where, say, you get to that last stretch, you got to win 3 out of 4 games. The New York game is the one that's the one you can lose.
JJ.
You can't lose Denver. You can't lose Tennessee. And you can't.
I
lose
like your
Jacksonville.
poll case, but I'm going to go with JJ on this.
That's
one.
fine.
We need.
Because you also picked Tennessee.
Poo all over me. That's fine.
But hey, while I'm there at Jacksonville, could we have another scenario of hey, this season is starting, by the way, with those two football teams, the exact same teams the way it ended last year, obviously, with a home loss like that. Is this Jackson or is this Houston scenario from this year rather with Jacksonville?
Well, you sure hope not. You sure hope not.
I mean, I'm just saying that scenario is out there. They do it for a reason.
I think there's not a bugaboo about playing Houston at home. Even though the Colts have lost the last 2, but that game against the Colts haven't won their season opener since 2013.
Yeah.
That's where that players. No one really cares about that. When it comes to Shane, when it comes to the players, any of that. But, I mean, we all know, fans all know, that's going to be a talking point. And now all of a sudden that game might be your biggest game at Lucas Oil Stadium this year. And you're playing it in week 1 when you haven't won in week 1 since 2013 and you haven't won the division since 2014. So that game will carry outsized importance early in the year. You're not going to get buried because you lose it, and you're not going to be crowned because you win it. But I think when you get toward the end of the year, there's a really good chance that you're going to be thinking that result really mattered for us.
Yeah.
They all do. Hey, again, if you want to check out the Colts schedule, go to Colts.com, anywhere on the Colts audio network, as well as YouTube channel as well. Can I talk a little quick preseason at all? As far as I don't have times.
Yeah, we got opponents.
We got opponents,
is
what I'm saying. So what are we looking there in the preseason? I'm understanding Denver and Arizona are 2 of the 3, with obviously Cincinnati. That's kind of been in the mix a lot with that, with the Colts relationship being right down the road.
I'm interested with kind of going back to what we talked about with the youthful quarterbacks there at Denver. You're going to see, Bo Nix.
Yeah.
You will see
at
Bo
the
Nix in that game.
very beginning stage of his NFL career, and
Good
then you'll
point.
see him, about 3 months
Are
later.
you sure?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
And
We'll
it'd be fun to
definitely him
see
in
kind of the
preseason, right.
where his thing goes, because the preseason, everybody's going to overanalyze everything. So if Bo Nix goes out and has a terrible performance against the Colts, it's the worst draft pick ever for Denver. So it'll be really interesting to see how that rises. But yeah.
Okay, I didn't put this in the rundown because I wanted to surprise you guys, but I'm going to do some trivia.
Okay.
We're going to do some scheduled trivia with you two geniuses here. All right. Can you name the 3 quarterbacks who have started for the Colts against Aaron Rodgers in his career?
The 3 Colts.
Aaron Rodgers has started 4 games against the Colts in his entire career. Give me the 3.
Well, Andrew Luck in the Pagano game.
Yep. You got 1. He actually started 2 of the 3, 2 of the 4 games.
Scott Tolzien.
Nope.
Oh, that was what I was gonna.
Jacoby Brissett.
Nope.
Oh boy.
This is a trick question.
Wait,
because it's
what about
Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Because this is a fairway shot right down the middle. There's no backups. There's no Scott Tolzien. There's no Jacoby Brissett. There's no Charlie Whitehurst.
Carson Wentz.
Nope. Year before.
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
The 3 guys. Okay. Right. How many years in a row have the Colts, or will the Colts, face the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft when Caleb Williams starts in week 3?
Oh,
How many years in a row?
How many years in a
that's
row?
A good one. I like that, JJ.
Connor, if you're listening, give me one.
Start working back. Who was the number 1 pick last year?
So it was Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Colts
you had
won that game 27-13.
the guy in Jacksonville, Walker.
Yep.
Then you have Lawrence is in there. So
That's 21.
20 number 1 overall pick.
2020 number 1 overall pick was
COVID year.
oh man,
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Colts faced him that year.
Yeah.
So that's it. Kyler Murray was number 1 overall in 19.
Oh my
so
God.
5 consecutive years the Colts will face the
Wow.
number 1 overall pick.
I'm gonna steal that from you. I like that one a lot.
That is a juicy one.
That is a
I
really
like that.
good
That
one.
is a juicy one. Good pull on that.
How many matchups in a row have the Colts and or Lions scored over 30 points in?
One more time. Bring it.
How many matchups in a row have the Colts and or Lions scored over 30 points in? 30 or more points.
Oh, how many in a row?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And
Let's go
we're
back to
we're
the-
thinking they only play once every 4 years.
yeah.
But I know this. I'm gonna go.
6.
6 is correct.
Hey, all right.
Oh,
Just
okay.
I just threw it out there.
It started in 2000 with the Colts winning 30-18. Then in 2004, Colts scored 41, beating the Lions 41-9. 2008, Colts 31, Lions 21. 2012, Colts 35, Lions 33. 2016, Lions 39, Colts 35. And 2020, Colts 41, Lions
Wow.
21.
Good
Shootout. When
Okay.
the Colts and Lions get going. Let's
I like
go.
it.
When was the last time the Colts played 2 road games in New York, I guess New Jersey,
Oh yeah.
against the Giants and Jets?
This was recently. This happened in 2019?
Nope.
2020.
Nope. Much earlier.
Well, really, much earlier.
You're at least
I'm a decade
you're a
off.
decade off.
All right.
02.
I thought this happened before.
02, no. A little bit later than 02.
Okay, so we're in that 10 range, right?
A little bit less.
We're in that 9-8 range.
What year did the Colts win the Super Bowl?
2000.
We're in
What
that
season
range.
did the Colts win the Super Bowl?
6, 7, yeah.
2006. The Colts and
Hey.
the Colts played the Jets and Giants on the road in
steal
2006.
that
That was the
one,
Manning
too.
Bowl, right?
Oh yeah.
Peyton versus Eli that year.
I
They
feel
also
like
did it in 99 and 93. They've never done it in
Wow.
at MetLife Stadium. And next year, the Colts are going to play 2 road
Should have
games
won
in
that.
Los
And I
Angeles.
say this when I'm playing
Okay.
Jeopardy a lot. Should have known that one, Casey. I'm gonna drag you down with me. That
Please.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
we gotta come up
awful.
with that.
What
Go
are we
with
doing?
JJ.
What are we doing here? Okay, one more for you. When was the last time the Colts finished the season on the road in Houston?
Oh boy, this
This
is a
doesn't
great
apply
one.
this year, but I looked this up and I was flabbergasted.
I'm gonna say it was the game. It was the Gary Brackett game with a fumble recovery late, and I'm gonna call that. I'm gonna call it 05, 6, or 7.
Let's see. Gary Brackett. Did he play in this game? Gary Brackett did play in this game. He did not have a fumble recovery.
That wasn't the year.
That was not the year.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of right there. 5, 6,
You're
7.
you're
right?
you're in the range. You're in the range. It was 2003. The Colts have
2003.
only finished the season in Houston one time
Wow, how about
against
that?
the Texans, and it was 2003.
Great stuff. I love this, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
You know what,
you have
Casey?
you have what 5, 6 options of how you can end a season.
Yeah, and they
the
haven't
Colts,
done it since 2003.
Yeah, the Colts have finished the season against the Jaguars or Texans every year since 2018.
Right.
Yep.
That was the last time they faced the Titans to end the year.
Good stuff. Casey, we got to get
Little
on this.
quirk.
When we do these again, let's us come to the trivia
Okay.
with him on that because he just made us look like a couple of fools.
That was the goal.
I was really
And it
hoping he
worked.
would.
It
Okay,
worked.
I'm also okay. If you guys can name this one,
There we
If
go.
you can get this one right, I will.
redeems everything.
I'll give you. I'll give you each $10.
Okay.
Wow. I ain't getting this one right.
What was the score of the last time the Colts hosted the Buffalo Bills? It was Week 7 of the 2018 season.
What was the score of the game when they hosted the Buffalo
And here's
Bills?
why I'm asking it. Because it was a scorigami. It has been done one time in NFL history. This
Wow.
game finished with this score.
Oh, what is that?
I'm gonna say
Scorigami. So,
26-8.
No.
38-11.
38-11 is a really good guess. It was
Okay.
37-5.
37 to
5.
5.
A snap one out of the end zone. Andrew Luck had knocked the ball out of the end zone for a safety, and Adam Vinatieri missed 2 PATs
Yeah,
in that
Vinatieri.
game. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you
about
get
that?
37 to 5.
Scorigami. You do like scorigami.
I love
And by the way,
scorigami.
scorigami happens. It will happen every year. No, it's not guaranteed, but
It's not guaranteed, but it usually does.
Usually
like
does.
last year,
There
the
is a-
Dolphins Broncos was at 70 to 20. That was a
70,
scorigami.
right, that was a
Yeah.
It hasn't happened
Yeah.
before in NFL. Guys, I tell you what. Again, you want the latest information on the Colts schedule? Go to Colts.com.
You want dumb facts about the Colts schedule too?
I want it.
I got
Give
you
it to
covered.
me more. Give me more. I want to look more stupid. Not very hard though today, as you can tell. Case, you and I are falling flat.
Stupider, more stupid, Jeffrey Gorman.
Hey, that's it. All right. Colts.com, Colts Audio Network, YouTube channel as well with the latest. Guys, wrap it up right now. The Colts season out where it's anticipation. Everybody's looking forward. The biggest game in town. Name another professional sport that can take 2 hours of network TV for their schedule release. Is there one that I'm missing? And I
No.
can even throw in the Premier League in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Champions League might get you.
Do they do that?
Yeah, there's the whole, a whole thing where they play the Champions League music, oh, champions, and all that, and then
And
they
they
have
come
like
up with the schedule.
Unaware
Yeah.
of the music.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, the music's
I've
the
learned
best. Go look it
something.
up. It's the
Okay.
best.
All
One more
right.
time with the music.
champions.
Love it. Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
very
great.
much.
Yeah.
We're going to do that one time. Casey
Absolutely.
Vallier, JJ Stankevitz, the best in the business right there.
Shout out to Connor behind the camera for
Thank
not
you, Connor.
audibly laughing at me doing that.
Colts schedule released. We had a chance to talk about it with you today, and thank you for that privilege. Colts Audio Network, YouTube channel, and Colts.com has the latest. JJ Stankevitz, Casey Vallier. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. Thanks for watching.